Alright, hello again. Welcome to devlog number 2. Today we're going to actually start making this game, I think. So let's just jump right in. I'm using Construct 3, of course, as I mentioned in the last video. And I have a blank project here that I've set up for Project Warden. And we'll just start from the top here. I have the, let's just go with some project settings here. I have the viewport size set to 320 by 192, so that's the screen size that the user's gonna be seeing. The reason why I have it 320 by 192 instead of I don't know, what is it, 320 by 180, whatever it is so that it evenly divides by 16, because I like to work in grid sizes, and so that'll have an even distribution of blocks of 16. So I have 20 across and 12 down, I believe. You can check it out in a calculator that you can't see on the screen. But yes, that is accurate. So that's going to be our screen size there. Let's go ahead and get started. There might be a lot of dead air in these videos sometimes when I'm walking. Sometimes I won't be talking, the entire time. I might run out of things to say. But I'll make sure I have some nice background music in there for you if you want to watch. Sometimes I'll talk to myself, which is what I'm always doing, I guess. Some of these things I am talking to myself technically, but I'm trying to talk to you, the viewer/listener. But some things that I say might be a bunch of gibberish or nonsense or me mumbling to myself. So please excuse. Alright. So I got my workspace here. In Construct that works with layouts and event sheets. You can do like scripts you can do custom JavaScript scripts that you can run. Object types, you got your audio that I've added, so we can actually have audio, of course. Browser is a plugin so that you can use browser commands and functions and stuff like that. Gamepad, so we can work with gamepads, keyboard, mouse. And then NWJS, it's a JavaScript plugin, I believe, and that's what kind of makes it possible for executables to be exported and ran for certain things. But yeah, it's important if you want to be able to play your game as an application, from what I understand, on desktop or consoles and stuff like that. But pretty empty right here. We'll be filling this up with a bunch of crap over the days that we're working on this thing. So let's start. Where should we start? I typically like to start with just prototyping things. I like to make sure that the systems are working correctly and just the fundamentals of things like player physics or movement feel right. Especially with this system that we're going to be working with the grid-based movement. We want to make sure that that doesn't feel clunky. Let me go real quick to YouTube's. Let's look for StarTropics long play. And let's just take a gander here at the gameplay. What's going on with this? Let's go back to the start here. So as I've mentioned before, that this game is kind of going to be an amalgamation of stuff like StarTropics or Zeldas or Resident Evil. But you can see here it's kind of got the overworld in StarTropics, and this is kind of what I was thinking of incorporating into our game. Maybe a little bit more in depth and detailed, more things to do, of course, but you have this zoomed out look when you're navigating the overworld and there's NPCs that you can go and talk to. My intent is for there to be, you know, side quests and a lot of more interactivity in the overworld as well. Random encounters that you can engage in, or objects to go and find and search for. Just things to go and do. A lot more exploration, should you choose to want to do that. Let's scroll through here. So when you actually get into the dungeon, in StarTropics 1, you have to do that old school thing where you have to talk to NPCs in a certain order in order to progress conversations and get to the point where you can actually do things. So it's talking to this NPC, it's telling him stuff, Voodoo Lady, as he's about to go down into the first dungeon at the start of the game. And then here it will shift into the actual dungeon perspective of the game. And this is similar how I want to do as well. And you can see his movement is grid-based movement. So he kind of shifts and slides directions and stuff because it's just, as he's moving tile to tile, if he changes direction, it's going to continue moving to that previous tile, even if he is facing a new direction until he gets to that point. It can kind of feel a little clunky at times, so I want to try to smooth that out. But here you see what for some reason I just love is the tile jumping kind of mechanic, where you can jump to a tile, jump over hazards and things like that, and find secrets and switches. I really want to incorporate that into the game as well, but I want to do it in a way that kind of opens up that gameplay some more, adds more types of tiles to be jumping in. Maybe like sliding tiles or push tiles that you can work with, and maybe, you know, like the Mega Man disappearing timed tiles, things like that. But for some reason, this thing always kind of, or this type of movement and the tile jumping mechanic just really stuck with me, and I always liked it. And I'm not aware of many games that do it other than StarTropics. Maybe there's a good reason for that. But whatever, it's my game and that's what I want to do. And I want to do it well, so hopefully we can make it work out well and not feel clunky, because as players sure know that one of the most immediate turn-offs for a game is that it controls poorly and feels bad to play. They're not going to play it if it doesn't feel good. So I'll have to figure that out. Maybe we should just play StarTropics and not make a game. I don't know. I don't know. Now let's make a game. Alright. Back to StarTropics. Once you beat a boss, this is the first boss, then you progress out of the dungeon. In these dungeons, it's not like Zelda to where you kind of get some sweet new ability or item that's useful in the overworld or progressing through puzzles and stuff like that. You kind of just get on-use items in this game, like torches or bats or things like that that have charges that you run out of. I would like our game to be more like Zelda, to where you find things that are useful, key items that kind of change it up and help you to solve puzzles, or give you new abilities or new attacks, that kind of stuff. But we'll see how that plays out. Because I also am a big fan of Mega Man, and I've always thought that it was cool how you could do things in any order, any bosses in any order, and that you could get their abilities, which really change up the gameplay, and you know other bosses have weaknesses to those things, but you can do it in any order and play how you please. Because there has to be a bit of a reward structure in the game, right? It has to be exciting things to chase and to receive when you complete dungeons and things like that. Because if we were just to be like, your reward is that you saved this person, that wouldn't really be super exciting to play. Anywho. Alright, let's think about this. So we're going to need to have an object type first for the player character sprite. And typically the way that you would want to do that is that you would have just kind of the actual player object that's moving. That's just like a square or a rectangle, right? So you have collision edges on your sprite, and you want to make sure that those collision edges aren't going to grab onto geometry and cause movement problems and stuff. So you just want nice straight lines, and in my opinion you want, you know, as little of those as possible. So we're just gonna go with like a very basic rectangle or square. But let's try to keep things organized. I'm typically bad at that. So let's make an object type folder called player. We'll add an object type to that. We're gonna look for a sprite, and we're going to add that sprite. Size-wise, let's just have it be a square, 16 by 16, because that will fill up one of our grid squares in the actual layout. We'll just give it a nice plain color, green. What am I doing? Tolerance. There we go. Image points in construct. We want to have an origin. This is where that's gonna kind of anchor to when we pull it out into the layout. I like to do the corners, but for a sprite, we got to think about this. For a player sprite, if he's going to be mirroring on the layout, we want it to be center. So we'll probably do bottom, so it's in the bottom center of it. Because if we were to do in one of the corners, if we were to mirror it, then it would not look good. I can show you why perhaps later, but we're gonna do that for now. Other image points that we could do here, you can add as many image points as you want here, and that could be used for pinning certain objects or referencing those points on the coordinates within the game to set sprites to locations or actions or things like that in reference to wherever that object is. But we'll just do this. And then collisions. As I mentioned before, you want to have as little as possible when you're designing these. The reason being, when you're working with collisions, if you have more collisions, the more and more of those are going to affect the performance of your game at runtime more and more, because every tick of the game when it's processing, it's going to do a collision check, I believe, against everything that's on screen. And so if you have a bunch of things with collisions or collision points on it, it's going to have to do a collision check against all of those things. And this will get more important too once we add in objects or, you know, attacks, spell effects, that kind of stuff, or enemy objects. We want to keep those things in mind so we can try to keep performance running well. Let's roll with that. And so our player sprite, the actual sprite that's going to be tied to the behaviors and the physics and everything like that, you're not going to see this sprite. We're going to have a mask on top of it, which is the actual like player sprite that's going to be animated and the thing that people are going to see, but that's just going to be pinned to this sprite, anchored to it all the time. That way, the player sprite, we can do no collisions on it. We can do whatever size or make it look however we want, but it will just be pinned to this square object. So this will be handling all the movement and collision checking and everything for us. Let's call this layout. Let's rename it. Just we'll call it our sandbox. So layouts, you can tie an event sheet to it. Event sheets are the things that happen or that handle the events, right? They handle all the different conditions and things with the plugins and everything that you put into your game. It's where all the magic happens with the game. But you can tie one of those to a layout. So let's go ahead and rename that Sandbox 2, just to keep it consistent. So we have our name of our layout as Sandbox and our event sheet as Sandbox. Grid size is 16 by 16 as we set before. Let's go ahead and show collision polygons. And let's plop this sucker in here somewhere. And we might want to change this center origin actually. Reason being, you can see that it's kind of in between the grid lines and everything, which we don't want. We want it to be within or filling all those grid lines. So if we were to change this to bottom left, now you can see how it snaps to those squares nicely. So the player would be able to move to the edge of the screen but as I also mentioned before, when you're working with movement and everything, that could be a little tricky. We would have to offset the sprite if we wanted to do it that way. So we can add behaviors to objects that we've created. So we have our player object here. Let's go ahead and add tile movement, because that's how we're going to move. It's going to be like a 2D grid. Our grid width is 16. Height is 16. Let's see. Let's set that origin back to the middle. Offset it by, or 8 on the X plane. I don't want to do default controls with this because I think that ties it to the arrow keys. I don't like arrow keys. This is, as far as keyboard controls go, intended to use ASD and W. And the mouse will be in play too, but I'm sure we'll set up a variety of control options where people can actually customize their keybinds and everything too. And of course, controller support will be had. Let's see, key is down. Del or A. Let's do A. And then we're gonna move. Just rename our sprite player as well. Alright, so when the key is down, we want to add the action where the player is going to move in the grid. So, simulate control to the left, because the A is going to be our left button. And then let's just copy and change that. So we're going to do one for S. That's going to go down. Then one for D. Should go right. And then W, which will go up. And let's see how that looks. We already got our event sheet sandbox tied to our layout sandbox. So when we run this, this should just work fine. Let's make sure that you can actually see it here. WARDEN. We need a display capture for screen. Whoa! Alright. So you can see we have our movement here. This can be illustrated a little bit better, I believe, if we were to actually put in a some kind of template. Let's add a new object type called templates or templates. And then let's add a, what is it called? Tiled background. Sorry, it's been a few months since I worked on games. And it's really early. I'm trying to do what Joel does and work up butt early to work on games. Let's do 36 by 36. And we want to fill this sucker in. Let's do a nice thin line. That's gonna work. Maybe it will. Aha, I knew it was a bad idea. Let's add a layer. Where's my tools? Where are my tools at? Add layer at the top. Send this to layer 1, which is actually under layer 0. Make layer 0 transparent so we can look through that. It's not quite accurate to what I was trying to portray here. What if we do a 16? And we'll just do each side as a different color. There we go. So see how it's snapping to each grid that way. And if I hold one direction, it's going to go that direction. While I'm holding that direction, I go to a different direction. It is not going to change directions currently because of how we have it set up. So I feel like it should. We also need to slow it down a bit. It's currently at 100 pixels per second across the axis. Oh, let's see how long. So what if we did 64? It's a little sluggish. Let's go 80. So by default, as we set it up here, if I'm moving one direction, I hold the opposite direction, it will stop. If I'm holding one direction, I hold an adjacent direction, like moving right, I'm going to go up or down, it's not going to do anything, but I think it should. That's how I'd want it. Let's see how that works if we change this. So, if A is down, we got to think about this. So if W or S are down and then A is down, then it needs to do something different. So let's look at it from the perspective of A being down first. So if A is down, let's add a blink sub-event. We'll say that S is not down and W is not down. Then we're going to move left. But if S is down and W is not down, while A is down, then we want it to shift to be up, I think. Oh, sorry, down, because S is down. However, inverse. If W is down and S is not down, we want it to go up. And then let's see how that feels, just like that. There you go. So now if I'm moving left and I push up, or if I push W or I push S while A is down, then that will override that direction, which I think is good. But you can see, I wonder if there's a plugin I can get. I'll look into that where you can see what keys I'm pushing down. I can put that on the display for my capture software, something, because that might be more interesting to see what keys I'm pushing as I'm testing things out here. But I'm just pushing A, S, and W currently. But you see with the grid-based movement system, if I'm pushing W between grid side or between grid points, it's not going to queue up that movement until it reaches that point every 16 pixels. So with the movement here, maybe we need to change the grid for the movement to be half that. Maybe that will help it feel less clunky. So you can go in between grids now every 8. Which so far, yeah, that feels a little bit more precise with your movement, and like you're not having to wait so long for the movement to kick in. Let's try that. For now. We can change it later if it doesn't feel right. I'm sure we'll be iterating many times on all these systems here as we develop this sucker. Alright, A, S. So we need to do the same kind of thing with different keys. So now S, we want A and D to be the keys here. So let's do that. Let's replace all these S key conditions with a different key being down. S. We would want this to be A. Oh, I did one of them. Well, that's not helpful. What have I done? Invert. S is down. It's going to be A instead. This will be D. D, that's going to be going right. A is going to be going left. If A and D is not down, S is just going to be going down. Now we'll do it for D. So in reference to D, it'd be SW. So W. W. S. And then this would be moving right, yeah. And then this would be moving up and then down. And then lastly, do it for the W, the up motion. So W would be A and D. Move it up. If A is down, then we're going to be moving left. And if B is not down, or A is down, we're going to be moving to the right. Now let's see how that feels. Oh. I don't know. It's kind of screwed it up. Let's look through this again. Hey. Maybe we need to change this to breast. Now, let's disable these blocks. I think they might be overriding each other. That works. What we might need to do, let's add a globals event sheet to track global variables. What a global variable is a variable that will be used throughout any event sheet rather than a local variable, which is just exclusive to that event sheet. Let's add a global variable. Let's do player. Now let's do control movement left. What I want to track here is a key down. It'll be a Boolean. Changes to right. Down. Left. Left, right, down. Now we need up. Up, right, down, left. All right. So W pressed. See if a Boolean is set. If, yeah. Right, down. Left. It's not pressed. So what we're saying is, when W is pressed, if the right key down Boolean, the down key Boolean, and the left key Boolean are not true, then we're going to set this one to true for the up. And just for the sake of copy and paste, let's add this for the up as well. need to do when it's released. We're going to set that back to false. Now let's do that for D. Right. And B for right. Just copy and paste it 2 more times. So S. Down. A. Now let's see. I think we could change these to just be booleans then. Well, let's see. Yeah, I don't know if we want to do what I just did. Let's go back. So when A is down, do this. Alright. Let's try that with S as well. Except instead of S, we're going to do is the down Boolean pressed this differently. What a mess. S is down. A and D. If A is down, ah. There. Feels pretty good. Pretty responsive. Whew. Bit of a pain in the butt to get there, but we did it. Oh, I don't know. Now the only other thing is that I think we're going to want to use key codes instead, rather than just the hard keys, because the key code value, or actually no, we want to change it to just like globals, I think. So let's see. Control, movement, up, key code. That'll be a number. I'll do this for down key code. Right, left. All right, key codes. Let's see. We need a list of the key codes. All right, all those things. Beautiful. So by default, A is 65, D is 68. A is 65. So this should be 65 theoretically. And D 68. And W is 87 and S is 83. 87, 83. S is 83? Yeah. Down. Up is 87, I say? 87. Alright. So those are the default values. So we should be able to change anything that is S. Refactoring might be a bit of a problem. So S is down. See, key code is down. What was it? Control, movement. So S is down. So we want the down key code, right? Oi. Down key code. Up. So I think now we can go replace all the W's with this. What a pain in the butt. Let's see. We get all the W's. Alright, now for the S's. S would be down. So let's do the down nose. No, no. Get rid of those. And now we'll do the down yes. S released. You can't hear the music that I'm hearing, so that probably just sounded silly. S pressed. You gotta press that S. Alright, I think we got the S's. Now we gotta do an A. A. A would be left. Left key code. We get all them A's. Grab that A. D. Grab the D. The D is right. Nope. D is down. The D is pressed. And D is released. Gotta release the D. Well, it's not as easy to read, but golly, I hope it works. Hey, it does work. Cool. Alright, so the reason that we did all that nonsense is for key bindings, right? So right here, yeah, as we're working on this stuff, let's get a little organized, shall we? Let's minimize all these panels. And then let's set this into its own event sheet, specifically for player controls. So let's add one of those. Do player controls. Maybe we should do controls. Name your convention. Controls player. So on here, let's take all this stuff we just made and copy it over there. I see it expands as it's copied. Good. I wasted that time. Alright. And so now we also want to make a master sheet. This is what I like to do. So in the master sheet, I can include other event sheets. So I can include the controls into there. And that way, in my sandbox, I just have to include the master, which will include the other things in the future. So now my sandbox should still be able to have the controls. Yeah. Alright. Beautiful. Alright, so now that means I can have a fresh event sheet for the sandbox again. So what I want to do here is key bindings, where we can change the key bind. Let's see, how do we want to do this? Maybe let's say when the key pressed of the apostrophe, then the next key that gets pushed, I want to be changing the W. So this needs to set a prompt, which means that we'll need to have a global. Let's do and we'll do keybinds. We also want a gameplay state. By default, it will be playing. Sorry, just some housekeeping here. What just happened? Oh. Right. Let's see, hold on. Alright. What I want to do is when I press the apostrophe, I want to change the gameplay state to a prompt state. So we're going to set the value of gameplay state to keybind. So back in our controls, all these wonderful things that expanded. We want all of these to only be doing those things when we are in a gameplay state of thing. Which is why we made that other variable. So we'll encapsulate all that underneath that condition. So, when it is pressed, gameplay state should be set to keybind. When we have a gameplay state of keybind, we're going to start by setting the boolean, key binding, we'll do up, right, down, left. So up will be the first one. So when this is that, and we have this also being that, then the key that we press next is going to be set on any key pressed. That's what we want. And I think we also want to make sure that no, on any key pressed. And we can get this more elaborate later. Right now I just want to get this working a little bit. We'll build in conditional checking to make sure that the keybind's not set anywhere else, and then making sure that no important function keys or escape or enter or those things are set. So for up, on any key pressed, then we're going to set the value of that key code for up to whatever was just pressed. And I forget what that last key code is. That's convenient. There we go. We'll do that, and then we'll change this to false. And then we'll queue up the next one, which would be right. So you have any key released instead. The reason being, sometimes the timing of the transactions can mess things up. So if we do it on pressed, it might queue up the next thing before we want it to in the sequence of events. So we'll just do a release instead. So this is the right key code, and then we set right to false, and then we set down to true. Change this to down, down, then we're down, down is done, now we want left, and then we do this as well. You know what, there's a better way. Okay. Why not? Alright, maybe it won't let me. Interesting. Alright, I think this is done then. Pretty much, so we gotta do left. Left is false. And then we're gonna set the gameplay state back to playing. Alright, let's see how this works. So we have this, if we push that, 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 that. Nope, that didn't work. Let's debug it. So, oh, let's see how everything changed to 192. Yeah, so how I did that is not gonna work. So when this is released, maybe. Let's put in a short wait as well. Let's debug it. Okay. So let's say I want to do 1. Oh, they all set to 1. Okay. As I mentioned before, the transaction, the sequence of events, it's all stringing together. Alright. 1. Ha! Well, it did work. So if I want to go back. Cool. So as you can see, these global variables down here, I have those key codes set for these things for movement. So when I'm currently in a gameplay state of playing, if I hit apostrophe now, then it should change that. Keybind. Alright. So we are currently binding our up key. So watch the up key right here, 87. If I change that from W to say number 1, that changed to 49. So now we are doing the right key binding. I'll do that as a 2, and then we should be going to down 51 and 52. And so now we're back to playing because we went through all 4 of those keybinds, and now I have changed the keybinds. So that's how we remap keys. So that's pretty cool. We can set it back to the default. Well, there we go. I think we're gonna call it there for today. Appreciate you checking out this boring stream. But you know, we're just getting into the very basic stuff now. Making sure that things feel good. At least in a good state to start prototyping everything out. But so what we did today is we started our project here, and we made a couple of event sheets there, sandbox, and we started doing the grid-based movement functionality like StarTropics does, albeit with some changes. So really quick before we stop, actually, let's set these key bindings in their own event sheet called keybinds. And remember, the master event sheet, we're going to include the keybinds in there, and then we're going to relocate the things we were working on here over to there. And then clear those out. So we have a fresh sandbox event sheet for next time. And that's kind of how I like to work. I like to stage the events that I'm working on in the sandbox event sheet. And once I feel that those are good, then I move them over to their respective event sheet in a more permanent place. And that way, I can try to keep things organized that way. That way I can try to keep things organized that way. Anywho, let's stop. Thank you.